I'm Charday Mills, a librarian at SFCC, and today I'm going to be helping you find articles for your PSYC200 class using Google Scholar. In this video, we're going to go over step-by-step instructions for using Google Scholar, how to create an effective search, identify the appropriate type of article needed for your assignment, and how to access full-text articles when you find something in Google Scholar. First, what is Google Scholar? So Google Scholar is pretty much the scholarly version of Google. So instead of having a bunch of different information that you can find online, it only has scholarly literature. So these are articles that are oftentimes gone through the peer review process or written by scholars or researchers for other researchers or students like you. So when we search in something like Google Scholar, we're going to search as if we're searching in the library database. We're going to use keywords, stick with main concepts, and look at the various research that have been done in that topic. Let's go ahead and get started. My two really important reminders for you as you get started in this process is to keep in mind that it will take time. Instead of looking for something online, we're looking for a quick answer. In our assignment today, we're really engaging with research. That means that you have to actually read through it, determine if it's a good fit for your assignment, and that means it can take some time. So as you plan to do this assignment, make sure you set aside a little bit of time to actually read through those articles. Also, if you're feeling lost or confused, I always recommend reviewing your assignment. Your instructors typically and hopefully want you to succeed and will give you the information you need to know if something is a good fit or not. So if you're feeling a little lost, first step, always review back to your assignment. I've actually gone through your assignment and pulled the things that we need to keep in mind as we search for an article. On our left-hand side, we have our must-haves. So we know that we need a peer-reviewed journal article. It needs to be from a psychology journal and published after 2010. And more specifically, we're looking for an experimental study. So to be able to determine if something is an experimental study, we're going to use our evaluation steps. So your instructor has been kind enough to give us a guide on how to determine if the article is going to fit our requirements. So we're going to start by looking at the title, look at the different elements of the article, and if we're looking for an experimental article, the thing we want to keep in mind is that the study needs to describe the procedures used to manipulate those independent variables. So they're going to tell us how they've gone about doing the research and then show us with data how they've come to those conclusions. If you're looking for a correlational article, similar criteria, except when we're evaluating it for what it needs to fit that correlational article standard that we have, is that it will typically have a measure section within its method somewhere, and it will describe how the data was measured. And one of the most important visual clues is that it will tend to have a table to show the correlations among those variables. So that's what you're going to be looking for within the article itself. Before we get started, we're going to have to come up with some keywords or concepts to search for. In library databases and Google Scholar, you need to describe, using very specific words, what you're looking for. In this instance, we're more interested in the type of article it is, but we still need some terms to tell the database to search for something. So in our example today, I thought I might focus a little on gameplay. Refer to your assignment. Your teacher has given you some suggestions of keywords that you could potentially use. Also, I'm going to use the terms developmental psychology, and then depending on the type of article I'm looking for, I'll also include the term correlation if that's the type of article I'm looking for, or experiment if that's the article I'm looking for. Today I think we'll use the correlational one as an example. As you prepare to search, take a moment and brainstorm some of your own keywords. You're going to be reading through these articles a little bit, so it helps if it's something that you find a little bit interesting. So think of what you've been studying in class. It needs to be something relevant to developmental psychology, so take a moment to write down a few keywords so when we go to search, you actually have something to search for. Alright, now we're going to get into it. Google Scholar is accessible anywhere that you use Google. The link you can find directly here, or you can just Google Google Scholar and it'll take you right to it. So you're going to see a screen here that looks really similar to Google when you use it on a normally daily basis. However, in this instance, we're going to stick to using those keywords, which are the main concept or the idea of what I'm looking for. Let me show you an example. So in this example, I've included the terms developmental psychology, gameplay, and correlation. Notice that I put quotes around developmental psychology and gameplay because they're two words, but I'm describing one concept. By putting those quotations around the word, I'm telling Google Scholar that I want it to be found as one idea, one thought. Otherwise, it might find developmental in one paragraph and psychology in another. Also notice that I've included the ands as capitalized letters. And that's because if I didn't do that, it would just be looking for the word and somewhere. And that's almost in everything, right? So this is telling me, or me telling the database, that I want these concepts all related in one article together. And that's why I formed my search this way. Let's go ahead and hit the search button and see what we find. So we have over 6,000 results. That's quite a few. At this point, I need to keep in mind those must-have lists and that step for evaluation I need to see if these were going to be a good fit for my requirement for class. So I'm going to go to the side here and change the date range from 2010 to current because that's one of our requirements. Everything here that is pulled is coming from a scholarly article. Oh, I'm sorry, it's coming from a scholarly journal. However, that doesn't mean it's going to describe the research or it's going to be something that has a correlational research element to it. So I need to look at these very specifically, each one of these. But I have lots of options now. One of the first things you need to know when looking at Google Scholar is if there's a link on the right-hand side, if you click it, it will take you directly to the article. Sometimes you'll find an article that does not have a link on the right-hand side, this one for example, which means that I'm going to have to do a little bit more work to get access to it. And the example I'm going to give you today, it's actually before 2010, and that's so you can't use it for your own article, but it fits our requirements pretty much in every other way. So I want to show this to you so you can see what you need to do to see if it's a good fit for your assignment. But do note, do not use this as your article because it does not meet all the qualifications. So let's say I'm interested in this first article at the top. One of my first things I'm going to do is look at the title and see if it is coming from a psychology developmental perspective. It does include the term developmental, so that's a good start. If I want to look more into the journal itself, I can see here it lists the title of the journal it's coming from, which is the Journal of Applied Developmental Psychology. So developmental psychology right there seems like a good indicator to me. If I want to see what the journal title is, sometimes it's easier to click on these little quotations, and then after the title of the article, the citation here will always list, starting at journal here, the title of the journal itself. But let's say that the title of the journal isn't so apparent, and I need to know if this is still going to be a good fit for what I'm looking for. I recommend that you actually Google the title of the journal, and it will let you know more about that journal and its purpose to help determine if it's a psychology journal or not. So here I've taken the title. I'm going to run a quick Google search on the title of the article, and these journals want people to read them. They want scholars, academics, other students to read it. So there are information about the journal itself online. So in this instance, let's see the Journal of Applied Developmental Psychology, and I'm going to look at the aim or the scope. Sometimes you might see an About section, which I also see over here. So if I click on About, it's going to take us back to the same place, but I want to look at the description of the journal to make sure that it is meeting the standard of being a psychology journal, and it looks like this one does, so I'm feeling pretty positive about that. In this instance, I can go ahead and click on the right-hand side and access the journal in full. So from here, I want to make sure that it meets the requirement of being an experimental article or a correlational article. So in the hopes of keeping this video a little on the shorter side, I will recommend that you go back and view the videos that I've already created about looking for an experimental or correlational article in psych articles. The same elements apply here. Typically, we're going to be looking for a table or data and how it's represented, as well as active descriptions of how they completed that research itself. So we're really looking at how our variables are being manipulated and how that information is presented in the article. So if you're interested in finding more details about that, please take a look at either one of those videos. I'm going to focus on this part on how to access articles that you find in Google, because that can get a little bit more complicated. Just because something exists in Google does not mean that you have access to it. So let's say that I find an article that I have some interest in, but there's no link on the right-hand side. Let's maybe look at this one here, the effects of video gameplay on young children's aggression. I can see that it does come from the Journal of Applied Developmental Psychology. For our example today, we'll pretend that it was published after 2010. Keep in mind, it has to be published after 2010, but we're going to use this as an example. If I click in the link itself, it's just going to tell me more about the article and ask me to pay to be able to read it. And when you're an SFCC student, you shouldn't have to pay to get access to anything. So I'm going to look at the information that I have about this article. And you can get this from anywhere where we see the little quotes. We have that citation information. I'm actually going to pull it from Google Scholar itself. I think it's easier to use from here. So this is the information I'm going to need to track down the article. Let's start with the title of the article itself. And I'm going to go to the SFCC main website. So what I'm doing right now is navigating to the database Psych articles so I can see if we have access to it through there. But first I need to get to the database itself. From here, I'm going to go to Student Tools and click Library. And then I'm going to go directly into our database list because I have a specific database I want to search. I know that the database is called Psych Articles, so I'm going to go to P and then go directly into the database Psych Articles. So the content in Psych Articles is all scholarly peer-reviewed, and it's all from a psychological perspective. So that's why this database is going to be so helpful to you as a psychology student. From here, we're going to log in using your Bigfoot email, and then your password is your student ID number. I'm now going to paste that title that I found in Google Scholar to see if I have access to it through here. So it looks like the database is trying to find a good match for me. It's highlighting different parts of these titles that are similar to what I'm looking for, but it's not an exact match. You may also want to try putting quotations around the title itself, so it's looking very specifically for those words in that order. And this might be a little bit more definitive if we have access to it or not. So we're going to give it a moment to think. And I'm not seeing anything that looks like a good match. However, that doesn't mean I can't get access to the article. I can request that the library find a digital copy for me and send it to me for free. However, you want to note that this usually takes about 2 to 4 days to be able to track it down and then directly email it to you. If you found an article that you're really excited about and you want to request that we give you a digital copy, go back to that main SFCC library page, scroll down, and click on Interlibrary Loan. Know that you can use this resource for books as well as articles. In this instance, we're interested in an article. From here, you would click the Begin My Interlibrary Loan Request. And we're going to use the information from that citation that we had here under Cite to request the article. So it's going to ask me the name of the authors, the title, the journal, what issue, volume, page number, so we can get you the exact right one. When you make the request, know that you'll be asked to log in with your Bigfoot email and password one more time. Make sure you change the citation type to article and fill in the information as best you can. Those are the steps for using Google Scholar to find content, checking it in the database, and then making a request through an interlibrary loan. So hopefully we've got you covered and we can find access to the article for you. If you have questions, you can contact me. My name is Sharday Mills. I can help you with the actual searching of the database. It also sounds that your instructor is very open to you showing the article to her ahead of time to see if it meets that criteria, of being an experimental or correlational article. So if you have questions about that, make sure you check in with her and look at that assignment. You can contact the library with the information online, including our 24/7 chat. So if you have any questions and you're working late, know that we can help you at home as well. All right, happy searching!